Hello, dear friends. This resembles the book of Revelation told in chapters. Opening piece. Risk of blackout. Venezuela already has it today. It would leave no internet connection. A study points out that it is possible. Red alert begins in Asia. Japanese stocks roar. Possible stock market collapse. Chinese yuan strengthens against the dollar. Nikkei nears a 30-year high, but the euro has fallen back to $1.18. Asian stock markets close in the red. Wall Street suffered its worst run since February. The Shiba Floki token soars more than 1,000. Wall Street braces for tighter inflation. Digital euro would automatically collect taxes. Commodity shortages hamper the economy. Markets sees growing risk of a stock market correction. High inflation expectation according to New York Fed. We have entered the most uncertain period in the economy. Chinese yuan strengthens against the dollar to a 3-month high. Apple suffers stock market crash and loses $85 billion. Taliban find 15 gold bars in former Vice President Saleh's house. Let's start. The next solar flare could leave us without an internet connection for more than 2 weeks, according to a study. The sun has been quite active in recent days, with solar flares and coronal mass ejections leaping into space, bursting in the direction of Earth at times, according to team meteorologist Weather Boy. Such a solar sneeze, similar to the Carrington event of September 1st and 2nd, 1859, is likely to occur again, but even a less severe solar event could knock out the internet. The event severely damaged the limited power and communication lines that existed at the time. Telegraph systems around the world failed, and some telegraph operators reported receiving electrical shocks. The sun has been quite active in recent days, with solar flares and coronal mass ejections leaping into space, heading toward us at times. Now, scientists warned of that an oncoming solar flare would knock out the internet connectivity for many weeks or months, adding to the problems that a significant space weather event could bring. Scientists cannot pinpoint when this will happen, but based on past solar cycles, it is quite possible that such an impact could occur sometime in the next 10 years. A new paper written by University of California assistant professor Sangeeta Abdu-Jyoti, titled Solar Superstorms Planning for an Internet Apocalypse, describes the threats posed by the sun to the global computer network and to communication between computers. In this article, we investigate, in quotes, the impact of solar superstorms that can cause large-scale internet outages spanning the globe and lasting several months, the author wrote. The two most recent solar cycles, from 1996 and 2008, and from 2008 and 2020, were part of a period of minimal activity during the Gleisberg cycle. In quotes again, in other words, modern technological advancement coincided with a period of weak solar activity, and the sun is expected to become more active in the near future. The paper states, because the internet was developed during this period of minimal activity, it has never been tested during a period of strong solar activity, and it is possible that we are about to begin a period of very strong solar activity. In quotes again, a recent study in November 2020 suggested that this cycle has the potential to be one of the strongest on record, said the study's author. In quotes again, recent estimates for the sunspot number at the peak of this cycle would be between 210 and 260, a very high value. In contrast, the previous cycle that ended in 2019 had a peak sunspot number of 116. Since ejections typically originate in magnetically active regions near sunspots, a higher sunspot number would increase the probability of a powerful ejection. If accurate, this estimate would also significantly increase the probability of a large-scale event this decade. Coronal mass ejection produced variations in the Earth's magnetic field, which in turn induce geoelectrical fields in the Earth's conducting surface, such as the terrestrial or ocean floor. The author of the paper describes how a solar ejection affects cables. In quotes, "These electric fields are responsible for the generation of geomagnetically induced currents of up to 100 to 130 amperes, which could flow through any conductive system spread across the Earth, such as power grids, network cables, etc. These electromagnetically induced current flows in and out of long-distance conductors from the ground to neutral, causing destruction of electrical equipment such as transformers, repeaters, and in turn large-scale power outages and internet outages in many states or countries. Based on this, most vulnerable to a strong solar burst would be power grids, oil and gas pipelines, and network cables, including those on which the internet depends. In addition to damaging things on Earth, strong solar bursts could also damage things in space, such as communication satellites. If the burst is strong enough and an induced current is allowed to damage network infrastructure, the internet could effectively be knocked out of service until repairs are made. On a global scale, this could take weeks or months. Some areas may never be restored. Although the exact timing of such a solar burst is unknown, scientists are fairly certain that an internet-destroying explosion is likely to occur at some point in the future. What's worse, it appears that the US is more vulnerable than other countries around the world. The US, in quotes, is one of the most vulnerable locations, with a high risk of disconnection for Europe during extreme solar events. The study says intracontinental connections in Europe are less at risk due to the presence of a large number of shorter terrestrial and submarine cables interconnecting the continent. To prepare for this event, the article's author encourages deploying more redundant cables, developing a smarter shutdown process, and deploying and distributing more data centers around the world in case of regional failures. Overall, this threat needs to be published so that more stakeholders are aware of the risks and strategies can be devised to minimize them. Economic red alert. Southeast Asian stock markets closed in the red. Southeast Asian stock markets ended Monday in the red, with the biggest drop in the Singapore stock market, which lost 0.79% on the day. In the last week, major Wall Street banks issued red alerts on the stock market, expecting an imminent 10% to 20% correction or a slow burn. Asia starts red alert as Nikkei nears 30-year high, Reuters reports. Asian stocks got off of a cautious start on Monday to a weak packed with important US and Chinese economic data and the launch of Apple's latest iPhones, while the Nikkei was very close to the heights last visited in 1990. Japanese stocks have sought as hopes of fresh stimulus from the new Prime Minister sent the Nikkei up to 4.3% last week. The Topix has already scaled that peak, while the Nikkei was indecisive early Monday. Nikkei rises 0.22% on stimulus renewal hopes. The Tokyo Stock Exchange main index, the Nikkei, rose 0.22% Monday after stimulus hopes and the new political leadership were the counterbalance on a day weighted down by a slump in the auto sector. The Nikkei, which groups the 225 most representative stocks of the market, advanced 65.53 points to 30,447, the best index since February 16. China's yuan strengthens against the dollar to a 3-month high. The People's Bank of China on Monday raised the country's currency against the dollar by 69 basis points to its highest since mid-June. The renminbi strengthened to 6.5 yuan per dollar. Prior to that, the Chinese currency touched a 1-week high against the dollar last Friday, posting its 3rd consecutive weekly gain following news that the President Biden and China's President Xi Jinping talked for the first time in 7 months. Evergrande crisis escalates as protests erupt in China. China Evergrande Group is facing growing protests from home buyers, retail investors, and even its own employers, raising the stakes for the authorities in Beijing as they try to prevent the real estate giant's debt crisis from sparking social unrest. USA. The Apple company will have to allow all app developers in its online store, the App Store, to be able to use external payment systems without having to pay a commission of between 15% and 30%. Apple takes a hit in the stock market and loses $85 billion with B, dollars, 85. Apple shares suffered their biggest sell-off in months on Friday after the federal judge ordered the company to modify the best way it operates in its app retailer, which could hurt the profitability of that business unit. Shares fell 3.3%, their biggest decline since May 4th, erasing about $85 billion from the iPhone market capitalization. The magnitude of the loss is larger than that all parts of the S&P 500 index. Stocks and mixes on the New York Stock Exchange. Stocks ended mixes Monday with the S&P 500 index and Dow Jones index rising to end the 5-session losing streaks, while the Nasdaq ended narrowly in the red. S&P 500 breaks losing streak as tax hikes inflation data loom. The S&P 500 Standard & Poor, index closed higher Monday, standing a 5-day losing streak as investors focus on possible corporate tax hikes and incoming economic data. Wall Street suffered its worst runs since February, as doubt about the resilience of the global economic recovery had former reopening favorites in energy, hotels and travel. Tensions will only increase ahead of the Fed's next meeting on September 21st, 22nd, and played a role in pushing 10-year yields toward a major short stronghold of 1.38% last week. Global markets are fixated on the timing of the gradual tapering of quantitative easing by central banks, particularly the Fed, analysts said. In quotes, "That's not surprising given the support that additional liquidity has provided to equities and assets in general, they added. The upward trend in yields and the general air of risk aversion helped the dollar recover from some losses last week and left its index at 92.624, down from a recent low of 91.941. The euro has retreated to $1.18 from September's high of 1.19 and is at risk of breaking support below 1.18. The dollar remains on the sidelines against the yen at 109.87 after spending a full month trapped in a small range. Gold has also had trouble breaking higher and was flat at 1,786 an ounce after losing 2.1% last week when it failed to clear resistance. Oil prices were a little firmer on Monday, supported by growing signs of supply shortages due to Hurricane Ida. Brent added 44 cents to $73.36 a barrel, while US crude rose 47 cents to $70.19. Problems. Global food and goods shortages. Grocery prices are poised to rise an additional 2 to 3% during the second half of 2021 due to inflation. Stores are passing on higher costs to the customer, especially in beef, poultry, and pork. In recent days, some of Wall Street's largest banks have issued red alerts on the stock market, expecting an imminent 10 to 20% correction or a slow burn. From zippers to glass, commodity shortages hamper the economy. Wall Street braces for stiffer inflation. Although the Fed is underestimating current inflation data, investors are watching to see what increases might occur and how the Fed might react to the withdrawal of stimulus and interest rate hikes. Consumer inflation expectations highest since 2013, says New York Fed. Consumer expectations for how much inflation will change over the next year and the next 3 years rose last month to the highest level since 2013. Afghanistan. Donors raised $1 billion in aid for Afghanistan. Donors have pledged more than $1 billion to help Afghanistan, where poverty and hunger have soared since the Taliban seized power, and foreign aid has dried up, raising the specter of a mass exodus. Taliban fined $6 million and gold bars in the house of Afghanistan's interim president. The Taliban claimed to have seized up to $6 million and 15 gold bars from the residence of Afghanistan former first vice president Amrullah Saleh, self-proclaimed interim president, on August 17th, according to a video released Monday by the Kama press news agency. Afghanistan blame game moves to Congress. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will testify twice before Congress this week on the Afghanistan withdrawal as lawmakers begin a long series of high-intensity hearings on the chaotic end to the longest war. Dogs abandoned in Afghanistan to be trained to work at Kabul airport. Dozens of dogs abandoned during chaotic evacuations from Afghanistan last month have found a new home and new handlers at a makeshift training center at Kabul airport. Although it is unclear who the dogs belonged to, many were found suffering from the heat without adequate access to food or water in the section of the airport that was used by US forces. The goal now is to see how to put them back to work when the airport returns to normal. US forces left behind 60 bomb-sniffing dogs and 60 other waking dogs. Taliban offered to help investigate 9/11 attacks. The Taliban were willing to cooperate in investigating the World Trade Center attacks when they occurred 20 years ago, according to Suhail Shaheen, spokesman for the movement's political office in Qatar. Cryptocurrencies. Shiba Floki token soars more than 1,000% after Elon Musk showed off his new pet. The price of the Shiba Floki token has seen astronomical growth Monday, soaring more than 1,000% in the last 24 hours after Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, posted a photo of his eponymous dog. Cryptocurrency surveillance. The Securities and Exchange Commission signaled a major shift in cryptocurrency surveillance last week as one of the world's largest cryptocurrency exchanges disclosed that it could not launch a new cryptocurrency lending product. Crackdown on stable cryptocurrencies. Stable coins are apparently safer than regular cryptocurrencies thanks to their links to less volatile assets, but regulators aren't convinced. The Treasury Department and other federal agencies are close to a possible crackdown on stable coins. Officials worry that digital money is largely unregulated and that it could destabilize the financial system rather than protect it. India seeks to tax cryptocurrency exchanges and transactions. Indian authorities are considering taxing cryptocurrency trading and the ecosystem in the country. The country's tax department favors taxing cryptocurrency exchanges and trading, but that doesn't mean they would be classified as valid asset class. Europe. Digital euro would automatically collect taxes. Recent research reveals that the digital euro would integrate the usual tax collection and tax declaration of European citizens, which would eliminate middlemen and paperwork at government offices. The digital ruble will become legal tender in Russia before 2030. The launch of the digital ruble by the Central Bank of Russia will be one of the key digitization projects of this decade, according to the Russian Finance Ministry. European gas prices hit another record due to supply shortages. The price of natural gas on the European market has set another record, surpassing $730 per 1,000 cubic meters. The product now costs 5 times its 2020 price. Spain. The Spanish stock market extends gains and rises 0.7% after opening. The Spanish stock market extends gains and after opening this Monday adds 0.7%, trying to recover from the heavy losses it registered last Friday, the third in a row. The Spanish stock market opened Monday with gains on a day that will be a transitional day pending the publication of important macroeconomic data in the coming days. The market sees a growing risk of a stock market correction. The forecast of a stock market correction in the final stretch of the year has become the base scenario for the analysts' consensus, a setback which, in the case of the IBEX, could erase all the gains of the year. Spain wildfires rage for 6th day as evacuees begin to return home. Firefighters struggled Monday to extinguish a wildfire that raged for 6 days near a Costa del Sol resort in southern Spain, but said they finally saw encouraging signs as some of the thousands of evacuees began to return home. Americas in plural. Clandestine garment workshops in Buenos Aires live in subhuman conditions. Many of them are overcrowded, unsafe and unsanitary. Not only do they manufacture counterfeit garments, but almost all of Argentina's clothing goes through illegal sewing centers. Venezuela reports another attack on its electrical system. Venezuela's electrical system was the target of another attack on Sunday. Electrical Energy Minister Nestor Reverol said, referring to power outages in the Caracas area and other parts of the country, there was an explosion and fire at an electrical substation in the José Ángel Lamas municipality of the northern state of Aragua. Reverol said, the incident caused power outages in the central district and also left parts of the states of Zulia, Mérida, Táchira, Nueva Esparta and Falcón without electricity. Venezuela puts state-owned food companies in private hands. Venezuela's government is allowing private companies to manage at least 30 food companies that were nationalized a decade ago, an effort aimed at improving operations that suffer under state management. Cows are toilet trained to reduce ammonia pollution. Among ammonia from cow waste does not directly contribute to climate change. When it leaches into the soil, it is converted to nitrous oxide, the third most polluting greenhouse gas. To avoid this indirect damage, a farm in Germany has taught cows to go to the bathroom. Pope wants to merge all religions into one. Pope Francis wants to merge all religions into one. The Pope broke with the Eastern Church about 1,000 years ago, and the pressure from Muslims, most of the Eastern churches, repudiated their union with Rome, and this is the division that persists to this day. The present Eastern Orthodox Communion dates from the 1450s, making it just 6 decades older than the Protestant Reformation. Mel Gibson criticizes Catholic bishops for persecuting priests who preach traditional beliefs. Movie star and director of The Passion of the Christ, Mel Gibson, has criticized Catholic bishops for writing off priests who dare to teach traditional doctrine, suggesting they represented parallel false church in quotes. Gibson delivered his peroration in a video message posted Sunday for a rally organized by the Coalition of Cancelled Priests, a group created to support clergy who have been expelled from the church or persecuted for teaching traditional beliefs. The Hollywood star said it's not hard to believe such a coalition exists, because he personally knows many priests who have been cancelled. Unprecedented times. We live in unprecedented times. It is a time of darkness and a time when light is breaking through. All that has been hidden is being revealed. It was always there, and we never saw it until it was revealed. Everyone is getting ready behind the scenes. This will be gone when the last word is given, and it will come like a thief in the night. Never give up. This is a transition, not a transaction. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.